Hi everyone, I'm Andrew.
I'm Sarah. Today we are going to talk about the legendary alchemy.
Alchemy, the word derives from the Arabic alchemia, is an ancient branch of natural philosophy, a philosophical and proto-scientific tradition that was historically practiced in China, India, the Muslim world, and Europe. In ancient alchemy, mercury, sulfur, and salt were the three main substances found on Earth. The Hindu word for alchemy is rasasiddhi, which means knowledge of mercury. Alchemists believed that mercury was at the core of all metals, and they believed that gold, silver, copper, tin, lead, and iron were all mixtures of mercury and other substances. While alchemists from different cultures had different beliefs, one of the core themes of European alchemy was the belief that the right combination of mercury and other ingredients would produce an abundance of gold. Islamic and European alchemists developed a basic set of laboratory techniques, theories, and terminology, some of which is still used today. Rather than abandoning the idea of ancient Greek philosophy that everything is made up of four elements: earth, air, water, and fire, they tended to guard their work in secrecy, often using codes and cryptic symbolism. In ancient times, we can distinguish at least three major schools of alchemy, which seem to have been mostly independent, at least in their early stages. Chinese alchemy, centered in China, which was more closely associated with medicine, and black powder may have been an important invention of Chinese alchemists. Indian alchemy, centered in the Indian subcontinent, and Western alchemy, which took place around the Mediterranean, and after the fall of the Roman Empire, the focus of alchemy. Development shifted to the Islamic world and finally to medieval Europe. Chinese alchemy is closely related to Taoism, while Indian alchemy is closely related to Buddhist beliefs. The goals of Indian alchemy include creating a divine body and immortality. In contrast, Western alchemy developed its philosophical system mostly independently of various Western religions, but was influenced by these religions. Early Western alchemy practitioners called it Hermetic philosophy. The most famous alchemist in alchemy is Nicolas Flamel.
I know this person. He is in Harry Potter, right?
Yes, in fact, he is in many movies. His fame came from his success in achieving two goals of alchemy. He created the Philosopher's Stone, which could turn base metals into gold, and he and his wife Perenelle achieved immortality through the elixir of life. Flamel dedicated his life to deciphering the contents of a mysterious 21-page book. In 1357, he purchased the book for 2 florins. The introduction states that around 1378, he traveled to Spain to seek help with translation. On the way back, he said he met a saint who recognized Flamel's book as an original copy of the Book of Abraham the Jews. With this knowledge, Flamel and his wife deciphered much of the book over the next few years, successfully replicating the formula for the Philosopher's Stone, producing first silver and then gold in 1382. Historical records indicate that Flamel became very wealthy after that and donated almost all of his money to charity. Isaac Newton also mentioned Flamel's caduceus and dragon in his diary, which shows Flamel's influence in later generations. Isaac Newton devoted more of his writings to alchemy than to optics or physics. Other early modern alchemists who excelled in other fields of study included Robert Boyle and Jan Baptist van Helmont. Their Hermeticism complemented rather than hindered their actual achievements in medicine and science.
Newton preferred to be called an alchemist rather than a physicist.
Yes, he spent most of his life studying alchemy. The medieval frenzy of alchemy finally led to legal prohibitions. Pope John XXI issued the bull Spondent Quas non exhibit in 1317, prohibiting pseudo-alchemists from falsely promising alchemy. The Guide to the Inquisition, written in 1376 by Nicholas Emmerich, head of the Roman Catholic Inquisition, linked alchemy to the performance of demonic rituals, which Emmerich distinguished from magic practiced in accordance with the Bible. However, this did not lead to any changes in the Inquisition's monitoring or prosecution of alchemists. In 1404, King Henry IV of England passed an act that banned the practice of metal multiplication.
So what is the formal way to do alchemy?
Let's talk about principles and philosophy of alchemy first. First, the Emerald Tablet Record. Alchemists believe that the Emerald Tablet Record writes how to make the Philosopher's Stone and alchemy. As above, so below is often quoted. The full text of the Emerald Record is at the end of the video. Second, Ouroboros. At the same time, the alchemists' alchemical methods were guided by the symbol of the Ouroboros. A snake is swallowing its own tail, indicating the meaning of infinity and repetition. A similar example is the legendary phoenix, which regenerates itself in the process of self-immolation. The circular structure of the Ouroboros symbolizes the unity and infinity of the universe. It represents the philosophical idea of one is all is one, that everything in the universe is interconnected and transformable. In the eyes of alchemists, the Ouroboros symbolizes the ability to integrate and assimilate opposites, and the reward obtained through this process of self-unification is eternal life. For centuries, alchemists were obsessed with the idea of turning base metals into gold. They believed that minerals, including gemstones, matured underground, gradually becoming more precious.
The idea of a cycle is like fruit ripening.
Yes, it's similar. Over time, it was believed that soil would turn into lead, lead into silver, and silver into gold. When metals approached stellar perfection, they would turn into gemstones. Alchemists believed that this natural process could be reproduced in the laboratory. Alchemy in practice. In alchemy, the image of the Ouroboros was often used to represent the cyclical sequence of distillation and condensation. This was the process necessary to purify and perfect the raw substance. By simulating the cyclical process in nature, alchemists used techniques such as distillation and condensation to try to extract the essence of precious metals from base metals. Because of the belief system they constructed, the alchemists' efforts were completely rational. All they had to do was accelerate this natural process. In theory, alchemical experiments could also give them insight into God's intentions in creating the universe. Alchemists believed that everything in the universe was made of just 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire. Alchemy never considered earth, air, water, and fire to be matter or chemical substances in the modern sense. These 4 elements were simply the most basic, universal properties through which the amorphous, purely quantitative matter in all objects first appeared in differentiated form.
This actually corresponds to the 4 states of matter: earth for solids, air for gases, water for liquids, and fire for the plasma state of matter.
Yes, they discovered the basic states of matter very early, and they correspond to modern science. Alchemists tried to purify, mature, and perfect certain materials. Their common goals included alchemy, which was to transform base metals such as lead into precious metals such as gold, to create an elixir of life, to create a panacea that could cure any disease. The perfection of the human body and soul was believed to be the result of the great work of alchemy. The first stage of alchemy, melanization, nigredo. In alchemy, nigredo or black means decay or decomposition. As the first step towards the Philosopher's Stone, all alchemical ingredients must be thoroughly cleansed and cooked into a uniform black substance. The alchemist needs to have enough patience and faith to believe that within this chaotic black water lies the seed essence of the Philosopher's Stone. In spiritual terms, Melanism becomes a metaphor for the dark night of the soul, when one faces the darkness within. Second stage, albedo. The albedo stage is the second of the 4 stages of alchemy. It is a Latin word meaning white. After the chaos or confusion of the melanism stage, the alchemist purifies in the albinism stage, which literally means washing away impurities. This stage is associated with bringing light and clarity to the original substance, the first substance. The goal of this part of the process is to restore the soul's original purity and receptivity. Third stage, citronides. Citronides represents the emergence of the inherent sunlight in the human body, and the reflected moon or soul light is no longer necessary. In this stage, the alchemist further purifies and sublimates the substance, deeply integrating its energies and preparing it for the next transformation. The fourth stage, rubedo, turning red, purple, or red. Rubedo symbolizes alchemical success. This is the stage of alchemical perfection and realization. In this stage, the alchemist achieves personal and material perfection through further purification and sublimation. Rubedo is often associated with the discovery and creation of the Philosopher's Stone, which is considered the ultimate goal of alchemy and has the magical ability to transform base metals into gold. In occult alchemy, rubedo also symbolizes emotional and spiritual refinement and the individual's search and understanding of the truth beyond the material world. At this time, gold is refined. Alchemists believed in the Hermetic macro-micro theory. That is, they believed that processes that affected minerals and other substances would also affect the human body. For example, if people could learn the secret of purifying gold, then this technology could be used to purify the human soul and even achieve immortality. The core method of alchemy mentioned here is the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone is a substance that exists in legends or myths. It may be in the form of red stone, powder, or liquid. It is believed to be able to turn base metals into gold, or to create a panacea that can make people immortal. By consuming the stone, it can cure all forms of disease and extend the life of a small number of people. The creators of the Philosopher's Stone are at the pinnacle of alchemy. The research of the Philosopher's Stone by the French alchemist Nicolas Flamel mentioned above made him famous. According to legend, he eventually experimented with the art of immortality, but eventually gave up because of his devout Catholic faith. There are also rumors that he faked his death because he was afraid of being hunted down by the church for achieving immortality.
Why didn't Nicolas Flamel share his Philosopher's Stone?
If everyone were immortal, what would the wizarding world be like? Not only would it be overcrowded, but it would also be extremely problematic in many ways. Wizards wouldn't need to work or support their families, and they would have more time to accumulate huge wealth, political power, influence, and knowledge. A new class division would be formed: the king class, the wizard class, and the poor class. I don't think such a world would be better than the world we know. Nicolas Flamel should have thought of this. The alchemical and healing properties of the Philosopher's Stone would cause people all over the world to start scrambling to monopolize it. So the fight that would provoke could plunge society into unrest. When Flamel began teaching people how to make the Philosopher's Stone, he himself was in danger, and greedy people would threaten his safety. So none of them went to some alchemy university to learn these skills, but instead passed on the complex and complicated knowledge by teaching apprentices. To this end, alchemists developed many obscure symbols, codes, and metaphors to protect their ideas and insights. Alchemical symbols are mysterious and difficult to understand. Here are a few alchemical symbols. Have you learned it? Legendary achievements. Gold, homunculus, elixir of life.
I want to young forever.
Young and longevity is the wish of many people. Let's see the famous people in alchemy history. First, Hermes Trismegistus. Hermes is the legendary founder of alchemy and is considered the author of the alchemical classic Hermetica. Hermes is believed to have mastered the secret of transforming ordinary metals into gold. His writings mention the alchemical principle of as above, so below, suggesting the possibility of material transformation. Second, Nicolas Flamel. Nicolas Flamel was a famous French alchemist in the 14th century. Legend has it that he successfully created the Philosopher's Stone and transformed lead into gold. Flamel claimed to have discovered the secret to making the Philosopher's Stone in a mysterious ancient book. He and his wife Pernelle conducted alchemical experiments for many years and finally succeeded in making gold. Legend has it that he used the wealth he gained from alchemy to build hospitals and churches and live for hundreds of years. Third, Paracelsus. Paracelsus was a 16th century Swiss alchemist and physician who was considered a pioneer of modern chemistry and medicine. Paracelsus claimed that he successfully made the Philosopher's Stone and turned lead into gold. He also used alchemy to make medicines and cured many diseases. Paracelsus's alchemical achievements were more reflected in the fields of medicine and chemistry. Fourth, John Dee and Edward Kelly. John Dee was a famous British mathematician and alchemist in the 16th century, and Edward Kelly was his assistant. Dee and Kelly claimed that they successfully made gold through alchemy and presented the gold to Queen Elizabeth I of England. They also claimed to have communicated with angels and obtained the secrets of alchemy. Alchemy byproduct, homunculus. Homunculus refers to the artificial life created by alchemists in medieval Europe. The word homunculus itself also refers to the work of creating artificial life, that is, artificial people. The production method is to put human semen, various herbs, and horse manure in a flask and seal it, and keep it warm through the fermentation of horse manure. After 40 days, a transparent object with a human shape will appear in the flask. However, since it has no flesh at this time, it needs to add the blood of a living person and keep it at the temperature of the horse's womb for 40 weeks. During this period, fresh blood must be added every day. If it is taken out of the flask or the supply of fresh blood is stopped, it will die immediately. In some legends, it is stipulated that a mercury flask must be used. The life completed after these works looks basically the same as a human child, but the body is much smaller than that of a human. Homokuru has all kinds of knowledge since birth.
Was he born a professor or master? That's amazing.
It is said that Paracelsus, an alchemist in the European Renaissance, created Homokuru, but after his death, no one else successfully made Homokuru.
Alchemy feels more like magic to me. Do we have any examples of it in modern times?
Sure. In modern science, it is entirely possible to transmute gold. In theory, it is possible to transmute elements such as lead or mercury into gold by adding or removing protons from their atomic nuclear core. In 1924, Adolf Meath, a chemist and photography expert at the Technical University of Berlin, and his colleague Hans Stamreich conducted experiments. They found that the black deposits collected from the discharge of mercury lamps through mercury vapor contained gold. Although gold was known to be a trace impurity in commercial mercury, the German researchers had purified the mercury by distillation. They said that what they saw was the formation of gold from mercury by chemical methods. Also in September 1924, transmutation experiments with mercury were started with the assistance of Sugiura, Asada, and Machida. The main purpose was to determine whether the ideas we expressed in the March 29, 1924 issue of Nature could be achieved by applying a strong electric field to mercury atoms. Another aim was to discover whether radioactive changes could be accelerated by artificial means. From the outset, it was clear that fields of millions of volts per centimeter were required to achieve this. Nagaoka reported finding a black paste by a 600,000 volt discharge between tungsten and mercury electrodes immersed in oil. From our observations of the Stark effect in arcs of different metal, we find that for a silver sphere, the field strength approaches 2 by 10⁵ volts per centimeter in a confined space very close to the metal. The terminal voltage is about 140. The presence of such strong fields suggests that it may be possible to obtain the required field strength for transmutation if sufficient terminal voltage is applied. The alchemical tradition attempted to turn the base metal lead into gold. As a nuclear transmutation, the energy required to turn gold into lead is much less. For example, if the lead is placed in a nuclear reactor for a long enough time, this will occur through neutron capture and beta decay. Glenn Seaborg has successfully produced a very small amount of gold from lead.
This is our introduction to alchemy. Is there anyone who wants to continue researching?
Don't forget Emerald Tablet record at the end of our video.
Welcome to Leave a Message for Discussion.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Sarah. See you next time.
See you next time.